Hello, hello. All right, I'm live now. Let's see if anyone posts some comments. So, we've been talking about doing something like an office hours for a brand new Congress every week, and thought I'd give it a shot and see how it goes. So, let's see. We got a couple viewers. Welcome. My name's Saikat, and let's just start commenting below, and I'll just kind of be saying random stuff until I get some questions, and then start answering the questions. So, well, I guess in the meantime, did want to make a big pitch for anyone watching right now. The thing we're really trying to do right now is actually find. Oh, thanks, Freddie. I'm doing great. So the pitch I want to make is right now the thing we really need. So here we go. Yeah, have we started to come up with a list of candidates? So the process we have right now is basically we're doing sort of an open call for nominations. And anyone can go to bnc.run/nominate. Nominate somebody you know. We're not accepting self-nominations, but if you know someone who's great, who kind of fits the criteria that we're looking for, nominate them through the form. And then the process is basically there's a team of us who are doing a first round of vetting, which involves largely doing a lot of research on their background, trying to look up any news articles about them that we found, general Google research, LexisNexis research, and also comparing what we know about the person that's been nominated with what we know about the district where they've been nominated. So, for example, if someone gets nominated in New York, District 7, which is a heavily Puerto Rican district, it's really hard to, we don't want to primary someone who's not representative, or we don't want to primary someone with someone who's not representative of the district, so that would get someone a lower score. And then second round of vetting is basically we're going to be calling the people who put in the nominations and the nominees and interviewing them, getting a sense of their politics, asking them what they're sort of thinking. Let's keep going. So are the candidates currently being vetted, and how long is the process? So yes, the candidates are currently being vetted. How long is the process is sort of a harder question. I mean, it basically depends on how many nominees we get at a time. We have done the first round of vetting with everyone we've gotten so far. We're starting our second round of vetting this weekend. But the goal really is to get sort of an initial list of at least one good candidate in 50 districts by March. So that's probably the longest the process is going to be for at least 50 people. Do you have or know any progressive running in Illinois? Will Guzzardi is pro tuition-free college. It's good to know. We do have a lot of nominations that came in from Illinois, and one thing I did want to sort of mention is, in general, we're looking for people who aren't already congressional candidates or running for Congress themselves. Not that there's anything specifically wrong with that, but we want to create a Congress that has a lot of actual industry knowledge as part of the Congress. So we want to have a Congress that has scientists, doctors, people who know how these things actually run in real life, and not just a lot of career politicians. But obviously there are many people who in politics right now who already have the knowledge, especially in local politics. So it's not a disqualifier. Why is religion such a big factor in some districts? That's a good question, Freddie. The reason for that is religion, just like many other cultural things, is a culturally identifying factor. So in a lot of deep South districts, one of my best friends from college is from a district in northern Florida, where people have the people there are good. They have progressive ideals. They identify with people who are Christian, who are able to talk to them as Christians. And so we don't want to put someone in there who again, it's sort of a representation thing. We don't want to have someone represent a district where people identify that way, people, talk that way with someone who doesn't represent them. A, because it's going to be really hard to win, and B, also that it just doesn't kind of seem right. It sort of feels like co-opting their district for a separate purpose. So let's keep going. So I had a live stream event. Nicole, that's a really good question about are we backing only Democrats, or are we planning to back all progressives, no matter what the party? So it's not really that we're picking people and backing them. It's more like we're recruiting people, and then we're going to be running them as Democrats and as Republicans, depending on the district in which they're running. Sort of one of the big reasons we're doing this is we sort of believe that party affiliation in the U.S. is largely cultural, much more than it is ideological. We want all of our candidates to agree to the same plan, to agree to the same platform. But we also understand that there are a lot of districts where, if you live in the Northeast, you often are going to vote Democrat just because you assume that the Democratic Party represents you. And similarly, in a lot of districts in the South and a lot of conservative districts, people are going to vote Republican because they assume the Republican Party represents them or the Democratic Party is corrupt. So basically, we're doing kind of what Bernie did. We're saying let's use the process that's set up because this is the easiest way to win, to take over Congress. But we're not going to consider we're sort of a post-party solution. We're not considering ourselves affiliated with any specific party. All right, let's see. All right, Jack. Hey, Jack. Jack's one of my friends from high school. But how stringent are we going to be on matching Bernie's platform for finding or endorsing candidates? So our platform is going to be not exactly Bernie's platform. It's in some ways a bit more aggressive, but we're going to be fairly stringent on people have to be on board with the whole thing, since that's sort of the main driving force for brand new Congress. What we really want to do is, like the end goal here is like, let's fix society, let's fix the government, let's fix America. And so the idea is really the big thing. And sort of getting all the candidates in, taking over Congress is sort of the means to that end, right? So we're not really talking about, we do want to get actual good people in Congress. We want there to be a representative body, and we want the people, Congress as a body as a whole, to look and be representative of people. But the really big overarching goal here is to get these people in to enact this plan. So yeah, they have to definitely be sort of fully on board. Let's keep going. Have you heard anything? Sorry, not any more than anyone else has. I don't have any inside scoop on WikiLeaks or Julian Assange. I think Bernie anticipated a better outcome. Yeah, sorry, I'm not taking a lot of the questions about what Bernie was thinking or not thinking because, much like you guys, I don't actually know too much about what exactly Bernie was thinking or not thinking. So I don't really have anything very useful to add there. Let me see, James. Thank you so much. Thank you, James, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Thanks, Beth. Mike, I'm not sure what you mean about building Hillary's dying base, but that is definitely not what we're trying to do. But yeah, keep the questions coming. I'm sorry, I'm gonna look at my computer for just a second. But where do we begin? That's a great question, Nancy. I was mentioning earlier, but right now the thing we really are trying to do is find candidates in every district. So if you go to bnc.run/nominate, we try to put up a description of sort of the kind of person we're looking for. We're trying to do the best we can to give some instruction here, but the reason this is the task we're really asking everyone to help us with is because people know their districts way better than we do. We have sort of a general idea of the kinds of people we're going to have to look for in different districts. We know if there's a majority African-American district, we'd like to run an African-American in that district. But in a lot of cases, there's a lot of sort of local knowledge that's really going to be useful and that we need to hear about. So please go there. We have a wiki set up with information about each district. Don't take that as prescriptive. Take that more as like, here's a starting point, and we also need information from you guys about, that's why we set up as a wiki. We need you guys to help us put research in and build that out. And please help us find nominees. And if you don't know any nominees, put us in touch with just, the person like my friend's mother has taught school in Massachusetts, in a small town in Massachusetts, for 30 years. Everyone knows who she is. She's never going to run, according to my friend, but she knows everyone in town. She knows who the right people to talk to are. So those are also the kind of people that we really want to get in touch with, who will really be able to give us a sense of sort of the the leaders in their community and who's been doing great work. Let's see. Education, priorities, and taxes are so bad in Illinois. What do you recommend we do as citizens of the state? So it's tough. I mean, in Illinois, I mean, I probably don't know Illinois politics as well as you, Beth, but a lot of education policy right now is somewhat, unfortunately, state policy, and that's not something BNC is going to tackle directly, but there are tons of groups that are trying to work on this. I don't know if I have a great answer for you, unfortunately, just because I think in Illinois specifically, it's a little bit, there's a lot of history there. Let's see. Terry, I'm I'm sorry, but I mentioned this earlier, but we really are looking for people to nominate others. We're not looking at self-nominations. If you can get someone else to nominate you, we're definitely gonna look at it. So yes, please continue. Chris, how will BNC beat entrenched incumbents? The idea here is that so to back up a bit, the whole reason we're running BNC the way we are, and the reason we want to have BNC be this sort of very large plan. Basically, what we're trying to do is recruit and run 400 people all at once, sort of in this presidential style race, and it's almost like we realize there's all these entrenched incumbents, and we just want to show up with rolling mad deep essentially, and be like, we're going to throw all of you out at the same time. And that by itself, we're hoping, is a powerful enough thing to actually capture the media cycle, to actually raise a bunch of money, and to actually turn out a lot more people in these midterm primaries. These midterm primaries often get about, like a 10%, 15 to 20% at most turnout rate. So we're not actually even going to be, we're going to try to get those existing people who turn out to vote for the BNC candidates. But what we're really talking about is trying to turn out 20,000 to 30,000 new people in every congressional district, which we hope by making the congressional midterms a giant national level conversation, as opposed to these small district by district level conversations, we can actually up turnout levels to at least hit, similar to what you get in a presidential primary, which would be enough to win a congressional primary. In light of recent turn of events with CEOs of Mylan and Wells Fargo, do you see any type of reform coming in the near future to combat CEO greed? This is from Beth Crank. I hope so. It is seeming like it's I think it's always a good thing when things like the corruption of a bank like Wells Fargo is put on this public spotlight. It at least, there's often there'll at least be some effort like that. That's how political pressure gets created, right? Like these usually these banks will just get away with it. There was an interesting interview I actually saw that I was watching with Martin Shkreli, if you guys remember that guy, who crazily upped drug prices for a drug that basically treated a type of toxicity that affected people with AIDS, and he upped the price from I think like $12 a pill to like $750 a pill, which created this huge outroar and has sort of in some ways turned the pharmaceutical industry into like a centerpiece of what's being talked about. But the thing interesting in the interview was Martin Shkreli was saying how a bunch of pharmaceutical companies were actually telling him not to do it just so the public spotlight doesn't fall on them. So all these companies know, like they're already doing this, right? Like banks are already often trying to mess with people. Drug companies are raising prices all the time, but they try to do it in ways that keep them out of public spotlight. So yeah, I think like because the Wells thing became such a huge fiasco, it's a good thing that it's something that people are seeing about now. So let's see, what else is the question? Dylan, you have a question about, you're asking about being on board onto a graphic design team since June or July. So we basically, sort of as a group, the entire group is now focused on trying to just get candidates. So we are still doing some amount of graphic work. We are still, we still have our website to run and stuff, but it's basically just not a big focus for us right now. So we sort of decided to stop focusing on building out all these other teams yet that we don't have a lot of work for yet, and instead try to focus everybody on this big task of candidate nominations and getting candidates, because that's really the bread and butter. Like if we can't get that right, then all the other stuff isn't going to matter nearly as much. Do Democrats abroad have any influence outside of the primaries? Asked Joe. They do. They can donate money. And they can also make calls and do all kinds of things to influence politics in the U.S. Mike, where does BNC stand on the Black Lives Matter demands? I pretty much pro all of it. I mean, so I was reading the what's it called? The Movement for Black Lives. They actually have released a platform that's sort of a congregation of ideas from a bunch of different groups that are fighting for sort of the racial crisis right now in America. And I think a lot, it's hard to argue with most of the things that they're asking for. So I think we're pro. I think we personally, before we put our own sort of platform out there, I want to talk with a lot of these groups and make sure that it's a sort of thing where these people, like a lot of these groups, have always spent a lot of time thinking about this, talking about this, fighting for this. So we're really going to be taking direction from them when it comes to putting out a racial justice platform. Partho asks, is the focus on congressional elections or local elections? Also, the focus is entirely on the 2018 congressional election. So we are right now sort of 100% focused on recruiting over 400 candidates and running them all across the board in 2018 in the primaries. So the idea being go in with a plan, take over Congress, enact the plan, fix America. Yeah. Tyler is asking, is there any coordination between Our Revolution and BNC? There is not, unfortunately, right now, but I think that's okay. Our Revolution is focused almost exclusively right now on races happening in 2016. They're doing some congressional races and a lot of local elections as well. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens once they get closer to once we get closer to 2018 elections, we're sort of getting a head start on 2018 just because the plan to actually recruit and run for people is going to probably take all of the hours between now and then. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions so far, but keep them coming and try to answer anything that I can. Thanks, Denoy. How many candidates have we recruited so far? So as Jennifer, so the process we're taking right now is basically we've done one round of vetting with pretty much all the nominations we've gotten so far. And what that first round of vetting was essentially sort of like research on the person's background, anything we could find about them, and matching people up with the districts they would be running for to make sure they'd be a good fit for their district. So we're starting our second round of vetting now, which is, I mean, you can say vetting, you can say drafting to some extent, but basically calling the people who've come in who are the strongest nominees and calling the people who've nominated them and starting to first get a sense of what their politics are, if they'd actually agree with the BNC plan, since a lot of people got nominated who I think don't know they've been nominated, and then also calling the nominators to see what their relationship is with the nominees and make sure because a lot of people that are the best nominees that we've gotten are people who are sort of lifelong principals or teachers or doing good work in their communities. So when we call them, we don't want to scare them off by being like, "Hey, you want to run for Congress?" And like, no, why would I possibly want to do that? So we're starting that process now, sort of. Has BNC coordinated with Progress for All? We haven't yet. I know Tim Canova somewhat recently started that group, and I gotta look a bit more into it. I'm not sure. One of the things with BNC is we do want to talk with all these groups and get their takes on stuff, but many groups are not yet that interested in the 2018 congressional races. So that's one reason why I'd be curious to see what Tim Canova thinks of all this. Yeah, for sure. Mike asks, when was this organization created? I remember seeing BNC at the DNC convention. Whose inception was this? So Mike, this org was created about April. It really came out of, there's a bunch of us who are sort of going around the country doing barnstorms, both Bernie staffers and volunteers, and sort of this question of like, what are we going to do about Congress kept coming up everywhere. It was at that point, a lot of people were asking, if we get Bernie elected to be president, how is he possibly going to do anything with his Congress that's been blocking Obama for forever? So that's sort of what the inception was. We kind of, a few of us decided, like, we really got to start thinking about this sooner rather than later, and that's why we got started up back in April. In terms of whose inception, it was kind of like, I don't know, there was probably about 5, 6, a bunch of us who had kind of been talking about it. There's I think if there's like a specific point, there's 3 of us who put the website up, but I think we can hardly take credit for the actual organizing of the group and the website. Celeste asks, what if I know a great candidate, but he's reluctant, so I won't nominate him? What should I do? Please still nominate him, Celeste. I promise we won't rudely call him and scare him away if you do nominate him. What we'll probably do is call you and ask you how best to talk with this person. And even if even if this guy is not going to run, oftentimes the best nominees know other great people. So he might be a great person for us to talk to anyway, just to get a sense of who else is there that we should be talking to run. How is a BNC platform determined, and who are you trying to appeal with it? The BNC platforms, basically, I mean, the roots of it are kind of the platform that Bernie had. It's not really being created from scratch. There's sections of it where we're going to look to different people. I was talking earlier, for our racial justice plank on the platform, we're probably going to be working with groups like Black Lives Matter, Color of Change, the Movement for Black Lives. For the part of the platform that deals with criminal justice reform, we'll probably talk to groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center. Basically, there's a lot of parts of it that are kind of, I don't want to say common sense, since maybe not everyone agrees, but sort of planks that a lot of progressive thought agrees on. But then there is this large part of the platform that's sort of this economic rebuilding plan, and that's something that is sort of a little bit what Bernie was talking about, but a little bit bigger. Like what we're really trying to talk about is not just introducing some incentives to create to fix income inequality, but to actually build all the industries through sort of government initiated funding, whether that be through public-private partnership or whether that be through some sort of investment bank. But basically, to get to 100% renewable energy, let's just set that as a goal nationally to do it in 10 years or 12 years and have the government fund the appropriate industries to do it. And similarly with doing sort of high-tech manufacturing in America again. And in terms of who we're trying to appeal with it, people at large. It's a populist platform. I think we're sort of unashamedly a very populist platform. And that's sort of the idea is the thing we like to say is there is sort of this bipartisan there is bipartisan support currently in Congress, and that tends to be support for pro-corporatist policies. The Republicans and Democrats will vote together when it comes to things like removing their incentives or removing punishments for them insider trading, but they don't vote together, and they will be very partisan when it comes to actual things that help people. So we want to try to make bipartisan support for a populist platform. All right, let's see what else is up here. Matt Beiser says, check out Jeff Johnson for Congress. All right, I will check him out. But yeah, do want to say that, the reason we're focused so much on 2018 and not taking an active interest on 2016 is it's just so much work to actually run 400 people. We're talking about running 400 people. We're not actually just talking about like providing some support to 400 people. We're basically talking about running 400 campaigns and running 400 fundraising mechanisms, basically running like a huge operation. So that's why we're trying to get started so early on 2018, because we sort of think that's the amount of effort that's going to be necessary to actually defeat the existing establishment power, the existing power structures that are set up by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. All right. Are we taking the time to send out rejections to candidate emails, rejection candidate emails to people that nominated them? We haven't yet, but we've been talking about this. Not necessarily rejection, but I think it would be a good idea to give people feedback about why what someone is a good idea versus why someone wasn't a good idea. And I think that'll probably get us better nominees as well. So it's a good idea, Connie. Thanks. Well, I think I will probably need to head off soon, but this was pretty fun. So I think I kind of wanted to try this on a whim to see if we get if people are actually interested and ask questions, and you guys did. So thank you, and maybe we'll try to make this into more of a regular thing where it'll give us another way to sort of talk with all of you guys. So so thanks, and yeah, I'll take off, and maybe we'll do this again next week. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.